Alright, I've seen Power Rangers twice, I have my mohawk back, and I'm back in this green shirt that absolutely does nothing for my complexion. Let's do this! Readers, consider this your official warning that this installment of Readus Reacts does include spoilers of the 2017 Power Rangers movie. So if you haven't clicked away from this video yet, that tells me one of either three things. One, you've seen Power Rangers already and you won't be spoiled by the information I'm going to deliver. Two, you haven't seen the movie yet, but you don't really care about spoilers. Or three, I don't know, you like donuts or something. So with that being said, I would like to talk about some aspects of the movie that I both enjoyed, didn't necessarily care for, think that they could have improved, or how I would necessarily handle the situation. And because I am the type of BioWare player that spends at least 3 hours while playing the game just reading the codex as I go along, I would like to start this talking about the overall lore of the movieverse of the Power Rangers, starting with the MacGuffin of the movie, the Zeo Crystal. And my overall thoughts about the Zeo Crystal was that I'm glad that they introduced it in the first movie. Whereas I was a bit iffy regarding it being used as the MacGuffin over the course of the film, I thought it was pretty smart to actually introduce it this early on. And that's mostly due to a combination of how the crystal works in the series and how we know it works in the series versus what we learn about it over the course of the movie, in the movieverse. And what we learn is that there is a huge difference between the two. Because in the show, the Zeo Crystal, as far as we know, served only two purposes: reverting time to its natural state, and giving the Rangers a new power source to access the Morphin Grid. In the movieverse, we learned that the Zeo Crystal is actually a life-bringing MacGuffin that's on every planet with naturally evolved intelligent life. So that means on Earth, there's a Zeo Crystal on Eltar, on Aquitar, and according to the discussion that Billy and Zordon had, there are Power Ranger teams dedicated to protect each and every crystal on each and every planet. And then we learn what happens when it's taken away from said planet thanks to Rita's motivations. Which makes one wonder if the Zeo Crystal in this movieverse can actually be used without it being uprooted and destroying all life as we know it. In other words, can the Power Rangers both use the power of the Zeo Crystal and protect the Zeo Crystal at the same time? If yes, then there's a chance that over the course of the 6 sequels we're going to get to Power Rangers, then through some type of Power Rangers the movie type occurrence, they're going to have to learn how to tap into the Zeo Crystal to re-enter the Morphin Grid with new abilities, new costumes, and new Zords. So get ready for maybe the 3rd or 4th installment of this franchise to be Power Rangers Zeo the movie. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy Power Rangers Zeo, it's just the Machine Empire is just not an intimidating force to me. But like I said before, I am indeed glad that they decided to use the first movie to establish what the Zeo Crystal is. Because when the eventual film series reaches the point where they're going to have to do Power Rangers Zeo, then they wouldn't have to introduce the Zeo Crystal out of nowhere. It would have been there from the very beginning. Which leads me to another element of the lore in this movie that I have questions about, Rita. And that's basically, was she just a Ranger? Or was she a Ranger that was also a Space Witch? Because when Zordon was telling the Rangers who Rita was, he only mentioned that she was a Ranger that wanted more power. Of course, it's implemented that the power that she wants is the Zeo Crystal, but we have to ask, was she successful in obtaining other power outside of the Zeo Crystal? And if so, does she utilize this as well as the power that she gets from her green power coin, or just from the green power coin? Because there were a lot of elements over the course of the movie that just implied that the only power source she had was from the green power coin. Now, I don't know exactly how accurate this information is, but if you look at the plot description of the Power Rangers movie on Wikipedia, it says that Rita both used to be a Green Ranger, but is also a Space Witch, which means that she probably does have a power source of her own. But given the fact that we've only seen her use her abilities through the green power coin, it's kind of hard to nail that as actual truth. And after seeing the movie twice, I realized that it doesn't really do a good job explaining whether or not that's the case. And I think they did that on purpose. As far as whether or not we've seen the last of Rita, Hell nah. Cause let's just face it, when she was slapped into space, she's either going to land on the moon and build her palace, or Lord Zedd's gonna find her floating corpse floating in space like Optimus Prime in the latest trailer of Michael Bay's Transformers explosion porn. Which leads me to a detail that I think is very important to discuss, and that's the origin of Tommy Oliver as the new Green Ranger. Because when Rita was slapped into space, she dropped her staff, and the green power coin is in her staff, which means that the green power coin is still on Earth. And because we've never seen the Rangers retrieve the staff or turn the staff over to Zordon in the movie, it's pretty much safe to assume that they don't have it. So during the mid-credits scene, when they hint at the idea of Tommy Oliver by showing an empty desk during detention hall with a green jacket, unless the writers of the sequel just completely disregard that mid-credit scene as just an Easter egg scene for the fans, then one could put two and two together and say that the reason why Tommy Oliver wasn't in detention that day was because, you know, while he was probably on his way, he stumbled across the golden staff with the green coin in the center. As far as executing the Green with Evil storyline for the sequel, you pretty much have one of two choices. One is that Tommy finds the staff and the coin, but because Rita isn't there, her essence that she left on the staff and the coin is actually manipulating him into doing her bidding. Or two, because the writers want to follow the Green with Evil story verbatim, they realize that they wrote themselves in a corner because Rita isn't there to pull the strings appropriately. My advice would be to just do something different. Because if this movie has done anything, it's that you don't necessarily have to follow the storyline of the TV show verbatim in order for the movieverse to be successful. Especially if you're actually trying to establish lore and proper mythology in the series. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Zords. According to the explanation that we received in the movie, Zords take the form of the most powerful life forms on the planet upon their arrival. And that's a reasonable explanation for how Zords work. For now. Because depending on how they utilize the Zords that the Power Rangers receive after the original Megazord, that says a whole different story. Because the Thunder Zords are based off of Chinese mythology, and the Ninja Zords are based off of Japanese mythology. So unless they acquire Zords from other planets later on down the line, that explanation might not slide. Of course, you could probably use the Zeo Crystal and like create a new element that we haven't learned about in the first movie to try and write yourselves out of a corner, but I mean, unless you actually have the forward thinking to do that, we're probably going to call you out on it. Or at least I am. Also, yes, I agree, they should have actually shown how the Megazord was formed as opposed to, you know, certain parts shifting around. Now don't get me wrong, readers, the fact that it took the power of togetherness and bonding as a team to form the Megazord, I had no problem with. As a matter of fact, I assumed it was probably going to happen like that, like the Netflix series Voltron. But I think it's safe to say that I speak for every fan out there when I say, no. Show me. I want to see how the Megazord was put together. I don't even care if it's nothing like how the toy does it. Just show me. As far as the plot hole that I mentioned in my review posted on Friday, I need an explanation as to how they returned home after the train incident. Because as far as we know, there are no actual morphers in this universe, and there are no risk communicators that transport the Rangers anywhere they want to go just by the press of a button. Even if the explanation was just as simple as the power coins did it, that at least would have been an explanation. It would have been a cop-out, but it would have been an explanation nonetheless. But they only mention it once as a reason to go back and eventually find the command center, only to proceed with the story as if that didn't happen. It was one of the things that I felt was brushed under the rug, but I see the lump. I'm going to tap you on the shoulder and tell you that there's a lump in your carpet. But those are just a few things that I've thought about since I've seen the movie. So your homework assignment for the day is to write in the comment section below anything that you've noticed that I probably missed, or if you feel like you have any concerns regarding the future of the franchise. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.